Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the opportunity that you have blessed us with for study. We want to submit this time of our lecture of business research methods in your hands. May you give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to be able to understand each and everything that our lecturer is going to share with us. And may it all be for the glory of your name. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord, I've prayed.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pauline. Thank you so much. Today we are going to cover research design part 2. The other time we did research design part 1, and we mainly concentrated on the quantitative research designs. This time, today we are going to concentrate on the qualitative research design. Qualitative research designs. There is a drawing of the research designs that we are going to handle today. My cover page may have had an error, but we are going to handle qualitative research designs today. And we will start with this one here, grounded theory. After that, we will go to case studies, and then we will go to historical studies, then we will go to action research, then we will go to phenomenological studies. These are all designs, and then we go to ethnographic design or studies. We will be moving in this direction. This is what we call the clockwise direction. We will be moving in that direction. I will be, when we cover these 6 designs, we will call it a day. It will be enough to keep our heads thinking. So you're welcome to take a ride through the qualitative research designs. And I'm still waiting for your concept papers. And I wish that in your concept papers, you already begin to think through which designs you're going to use in your concept papers. A design which is relevant, a design which is practical, you should be able to think through.
Doctor?
Yes?
Is this quantitative or qualitative?
It is qualitative. There was an error on the cover page.
Okay.
Qualitative research design. This is qualitative research design. So we begin with grounded theory. Grounded theory. This theory originated from sociology and was developed by Glaser and Strauss, and is appropriate when little is known about a phenomena. But of course, it is also applicable right now in business, because time has come when the distinction between business and society is not there. Business and sociology and psychology and economics and all kinds of stuff, including history, business has become so multidisciplinary that you can use any design to study business. So even if grounded theory originated from theology, from sociology, we can still use grounded theory to study a business phenomena. So the aim of this is to produce and construct an explanatory theory that uncovers a process that is inherent to the substantive area of inquiry. And one of the defining characteristics of grounded theory is that it aims to generate theory that is grounded in the data. What is important is the data. And the data, when we're talking about data in the qualitative design, we are talking about anything, input that you can get from the field, even using your eyes. When you go out to observe, you are collecting data. Just go to Chikubo. For those Ugandans who know Chikubo, just go to Chikubo and stand somewhere and observe what's happening. You will be collecting data. And so if you stand in Chikubo for 5 hours, you can collect a lot of data. If you go back again tomorrow and the next day and so on, you will collect you collect tons and tons of data, which you can use to produce a theory if possible. Because what you observe can help you actually to design a theory. That is how grounded theory is developed, by observation or by interviews or but not necessarily by questionnaire, not necessarily by questionnaire, but by all the other soft skills of data collection. So grounded theory commonly uses interviewing of participants with open-ended questions. Open-ended questions. Not these questions. Do you agree? Strongly agree? Disagree? Strongly disagree. Those are not open-ended questions. Just open-ended questions. So, but also you can use observation, participant observation. Like I've just said, you go to Chikubo and stand there and observe. You can even be helping somebody. That's what we call participant observation. You can even be helping somebody with either organizing his stall or organizing his shelf or organizing. There are people actually who have stalls on the road. So you could be helping there, say, can I help you to organize this? But you are observing what is going on. There's also focus group discussion. So all these three methods of data collection can help you to generate grounded theory. And the unit of analysis in grounded theory is a phenomena, not individuals. So when you go to town and stand somewhere in the corner of the town and you are observing a phenomena. Maybe the number of people who are streaming the streets, maybe the kind of cargo goods that are being ferried, maybe the kind of goods that are being bought, maybe the kind of people who are coming in and out. All those is phenomena, not particular individuals. Phenomena, general phenomena. Okay, so you observe the phenomena and you can be able to generalize somewhere later what you have observed. Grounded theory and phenomenology are related. That's another concept which you need to get in your head. Phenomenology. Grounded theory and phenomenology are related in that they are normally presented together. I told you that in grounded story, you're observing phenomena, and phenomenology is actually the study of phenomena, but also using some skills or some techniques that are purely qualitative. So they are related in that they are normally presented together because one is an extension of the other. And they use very similar data collection methods. The difference is that phenomenology begins with a research question, while grounded theory is conducted to discover a research question for testing. That is the major difference. In phenomenology, you have a research question. What causes people to behave the way they behave? You have a question, and of course you have defined what behavior, and then you go out to either observe or do whatever you do to collect data on that particular thing. But at least you have a question. What makes people to walk so fast when they are in the city center? That is your research question. So you go out and try to observe what makes them walk so fast. And then you can, once you do that over many times, you can say, now I have discovered people walk so fast in town because of this and that. And you can theorize over that. That when you're in Kampala town, the minimum speed is a kilometer per hour on foot, or a kilometer per second, whatever it is. That is your theory. Now, but grounded theory is conducted to discover research questions. So when you observed and observed and observed, then you can generate a research question. That is the difference between phenomenology and grounded theory. An example of grounded theory. There was a study conducted by PASGA. PASGA is an acronym for one of the organizations in Nairobi that does research, which leads to policy formulation. So PASGA, there are some students who went to train with PASGA, and they were taken out in the field, in the outskirts of Nairobi, to study a phenomena. So they went to the women ward where women deliver, and they observed. The participants observed that husbands responded so quickly when they were commanded by their wives to bring anything. They kept on observing, bring a basin, and the husband runs. Bring a cup, bring me coffee, bring me tea, bring me this, bring a towel. And they keep running and running and running. After observing that phenomena for some time, they concluded that women have power over men in the labor ward. So that became a theory of sorts. Women have power over men in the labor ward because they have observed that over and over again. So they devise a theory saying women have power over men in the labor ward. So the theory, when it was refined, it read like there is gender power reversal in labor wards. Because the truth of the matter is that men are known to have power over women. But in this particular incident or phenomena, it was like the women were the commanders, and the men were the subjects. So they came out with a theory, a grounded theory, saying there is a gender power reversal in labor wards. And of course, later on, you discover that when the the child has been delivered and everything is back to normal, then the authority or the power is grabbed by the men, and so on and so on. But that was an observation, and that is how grounded theories are constructed. You just observe something. After some time, you can be able to theorize about it. This is not pure business, but it is not different from business. You go to any market and you observe how people behave. Over a long time, you can come back and create a theory just from observation. So that was grounded theory. Now let's move on to case study. Case study. Actually, most cases students use the word case study a lot in their research. They say anything and then they add case study. Anything and case study. But sometimes their understanding of case study is not exactly what a case study is. As a matter of fact, a case study is an in-depth study of a particular research problem rather than a sweeping statistical survey or a comprehensive comparative inquiry. It is often used to narrow down a very broad field of research into one or a few easily researchable examples. Case studies are often used in exploratory research. They can help us generate new ideas that might be tested by other methods. They are an important way of illustrating theories and can help show how different aspects of a person's life are related to each other. A case study really is an in-depth study of a particular problem. In-depth, you pick maybe one division, you pick one department, or you pick a particular business, and then you study it and study it and study it and study it until you can study it no more. So even if it was a big company, you can decide to study only the one department. Only one department. And we are not saying you're going to use a questionnaire. Most students like a lot to use questionnaire. Questionnaire is one of those one of the most abused methods of data collection. They are one of the most abused. But an in-depth study would probably not use a questionnaire. You probably use observation, or you use in-depth interviews, or you use focus group discussion. That helps to study in depth, because the amount of data you collect in an interview or in a focus group discussion is a very rich data. Most often when you give them a questionnaire and you have even given them options, they might even answer them like robots. Okay? When you give them options, they can end up answering like robots. But when you begin an in-depth discussion with somebody, at the beginning, it might be feeling shy, it might be feeling intimidated, might be feeling funny, but after you have developed rapport, you can then get into deep issues. And then you can get deep and deep and deep. That is how case studies work. You get deep into some phenomena, and by the end of your research, you say, I understand this phenomena now. I have been studying, for example, the Department of Human Resource Management, I now understand the Department of Human Resource Management. I now understand it. Okay? But some people say, okay, case study of means I'm going to I'm going to design a questionnaire, and my case study is a Century Bottling Company, a Coca-Cola plant in Nakawa. That's my case study. But what have you studied in detail? What have you studied in detail? Coca-Cola plant in Namamve is a very huge thing. What have you studied in detail? A detailed study, case study would probably mean you study only one department of it. Maybe the production department, maybe the marketing department, maybe the finance department, and you go deep. That is a case study. So case study design can mean single or multiple case studies. You can do that. You can do that with a department in Century Bottling Company in Namamve, and then you go to another plant, and then you study maybe the same department, and then you go to another one, then you study the same department, so that you can have some multiple case studies. But the bottom line is that you have gone into details, into real details. And then what you produce really is a complete and comprehensive data on that particular department or department. So they can include quantitative evidence, because as you continue to study something, you can end up quantifying it. So it relies on multiple sources of evidence. You look at this source, then you check that source, then you check the other source, then you turn around and check that source, and then you turn the other way, the other page, and then you check that source, and so on and so on. And the benefits from the prior development of theoretical proposition is very important. So it would be important if you went to study case study with a theory in your mind, or with a theory that has already been proposed by other people. But also you can write a theoretical proposition, what you might expect as you go to study. So case studies may involve both qualitative and quantitative research method. But the bottom line is it has been a detailed, in-depth study of that particular case. So the general purpose of a case study is to describe the individual situation, the case, e.g. a person, business, organization, or an institution in detail. So you identify the key issues of the case, and then you analyze the case using relevant theoretical concepts from that unit or from your unit. Very, very important. Once you have a theory, then you can explore that theory using some of the analytical tools you have, and then see whether this theory is applicable in that particular plant where you went for case study. There are many theories, even in economics, that you can go and prove. There are also theories of management that you can go and prove or disapprove when you go and study a particular case. You can prove or disapprove. That is what research is about. Okay, so that is case study design. We are through with case study. We are now moving to the third design. We call it historical design. The purpose of a historical design is to collect, verify, and synthesize evidence from the past to establish facts that defend or refute your hypothesis. It uses secondary sources and a variety of primary documentation evidence, such as logs, diaries, official records, reports, archives, and text and non-textual information, e.g. maps, pictures, audio, video, visual recordings, and so on and so on. History. The key word here is history. Even in business, we can use historical design because business is not only in the future, business is also in the past. In fact, if you want to predict the future better, it is better that you know the past well, because then you can predict the future. So, and I sometimes encourage students to use secondary data because secondary data is reliable data. Primary data is difficult to collect. I've just told you the biases that people have. I have no time. Those questionnaires are too long. The questions you're asking are biased. The question you're asking, I don't want to express myself on them, but I don't want to offend you. So sometimes we just tick, 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 tick to get you out of our way. And so what kind of data is that? So secondary data is more reliable because it is a record of what has happened. If you ask a student, for example, will you pass this course? He will say, yes, I will pass. Will you pass business research methods? The student says, yes, I will pass. You can even go ahead and ask, what mark do you think you might get in business research methods? He will say 80, 85. Yes, that is predictive. But when you come back after the exam, the data is in black and white. The one who said is going to get 85. Now, after the exam, you have the real mark. So if you went to our archives, if you went to our records in the faculty, then you can know how students have been performing in research methods over the years. That is a more reliable data.
Doctor, can I interject? Your
Yes.
network is, okay, you're not clear.
I'm not very clear.
I think it's her network. Mine is okay.
I also suspected so. I was also suspecting so. Because her network can also affect. Okay. She has made me even to remove my earphones. I was thinking that my earphone was the one causing her crisis. Okay, so who was that who was saying I was not very clear?
Okay,
who was that?
I'm fine now. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, all right. So, did you hear what I was saying about historical design? Did you? The person who's fine. Did you hear what I was saying
Got
about
cut off when you started introducing historical design.
Did you hear anything?
No, that is why I got cut.
That's
that
why
is why I got cut off when you started introducing historical design. Yeah.
Okay, I was saying that historical design uses secondary data. Secondary data. Data that has been collected already And the best example I was using is that one of business research methods. If I ask you now, what are you likely to get in business research methods? You might be very positive and you say, I will get 85 or 90% in business research methods. And so some of the data that we collect by primary sources is so speculative, and some of them are so biased that they may not be a reflection of the truth or the actual thing on the ground. But now, after you have done the exams and the records are in the faculty, you can go to the faculty and say, we had a class of 8 students, MBA 2021 in January. What is the performance in business research methods? You'll find somebody who thought would get 85 has 60 or has something like that. So now that is the actual data now. It's no longer speculative. It's no longer wishful thinking. It's no longer faith. It's now the actual. So sometimes I discourage my students from going for primary data because primary data is difficult to collect. And sometimes people they don't want to give you time and they don't want to say the truth because they feel offended sometimes. So, but when you go back to history, you get data which is already there. So that is the beauty of historical design. You can decide that I'm going to take a study about issues that from 1990 to now, I want to trace the performance of maybe Century Bottling Company performance. How Century Bottling Company has been performing over the last 20 years, actually from 2020 to now, from 2000 to now, it's already 20 years. So you can trace over that. The data is there. You just go and say, I'm interested in looking at your data for the last 20 years. And then you see the trend. And that is a good data. That is very good data. You can know when along the way was Century doing very well, where along the way was it doing very badly, and so on and so on. So if you know the history very well, you can even say, yeah, this particular year, no wonder there was this problem. And therefore the performance was bad because this is the same year where there was the other problem. And so on and so on. So historical design uses data which is already there. Now, an example for historical design, for example, Karl Marx, sooner or later, the new generation will forget about Karl Marx. Karl Marx was a very good economist and a social scientist. He studied history of the economic growth, economic systems, and he traced it from the primitive up to the feudal and up to capitalism. And he was able to explain how economies transition from primitive feudal systems until they reach the capitalist system. And he wrote a lot of theories, socialist theory about economic systems. By the time we went to school, we were studying Marxism and Leninism as if it was the Bible. But that was the time anyway. So Karl Marx was a good economist, but also a good social scientist because he used history to be able to help us to understand the development of societies and so on and so on. But now, you could also say that, for example, wars world wars and whichever wars are there, people use historical design to study wars. Even people who have recorded for us the First World War and the Second World War, those people used historical data to present to us the reality about the wars, how they are. Even now, if you want to study about the First World War, you have all the data because people were able to put together data about the First World War, which happened in 1914 and up to 1918. Recently, when we went into this corona thing, people were tracing for us that in 1819, there was also an epidemic called the Spanish flu, which killed so many people, so many people. And they were beginning to compare COVID-19 with Spanish flu. That is the benefit of historical design. You can actually compare data. You can compare data, whether it is for businesses, whether it is for societies, whether it is for revolutions, you can compare data from the historical design. Okay, now I think I need to hear whether there is some feedback because we have six designs that we're going to look at. I have already looked at 3. I want to hear if there are any feedback before I go to the next 3. This is your time to give me feedback about the 3 qualitative designs that I have given you, that I have discussed with you. I'll give you opportunity to give me feedback, ask questions, make comments.
I have a question. This is Solomon Ajuna.
Yes, Solomon.
I still want to know more about the grounded theory. Since you say this is qualitative research, you talked about phenomenology, that it goes hand in hand with the grounded theory, and that they are related in that they are normally presented together. Because they use very similar data collection methods. Like, that was so complex for me. Literally, what does it mean in reality if I've set out to use grounded theory design? Like, maybe an example. How do I use those two things? Phenomenology, what do you mean? Yes, in that design, it was still complex for me, particularly the first one. Thank you.
Phenomenology, I think the word phenomenology has something to do with phenomena. Phenomena is anything, any occurrence, anything out there. Call it something which you can observe. By the way, there are even things we can't observe, but they are phenomena. Okay, so anything which is out there can be a phenomena. But it is easier to talk about phenomena as something you can observe. But for us who are Christians, we know that there are things we can't observe, but they are also phenomena. Okay? The fact that God himself is not visible is a phenomena. And so you can study volumes and volumes on the invisible God, the invisible Holy Spirit. the invisible Jesus, the invisible healing, the invisible. So you can, phenomena is anything that is available, both physical and non-physical is a phenomena. Now, phenomenology is a method. I think our forefathers who went before us thought that if I'm studying a phenomena, why don't I call that methodology phenomenology? You know? And as we said, that these are also, their origin is in sociology. There are so many phenomena in sociology, like group dynamics, how people behave in groups, how people behave as individuals. You can see that there's a difference when people are alone and when people are together. So that surprises me. Why do people behave differently when they are alone? And when they are together, they also behave differently. This is a phenomena I want to understand. You see, I want to understand. If you're alone, you can even susu along the road. When you're with people, you say, what will they think about me? So you say, I'm not going to susu along the road. Those kind of things, those are phenomena. Those are phenomena. Now, we said that they are used together sometimes because even grounded theory uses phenomena. But the only distinction is that with grounded theory, you have no question. You have no research question. You just go blind. You just go blind. I want to go and observe how people behave as individuals when they're alone. I want to dwell there for about 3 weeks, just observing individuals when they are alone. Of course, I don't know where you'll hide when you're observing an individual, because the moment they know that you're observing them, their behavior will change. But this is a speculation. This is just a hypothetical that you're observing an individual. Assume you're hiding somewhere and observing an individual. The behavior, when he's alone, over time you discover that it is different when you observe people in groups. Okay? So in one case, you have a research question. In phenomenology, you have a research question that why do people behave, let's say, wildly, like animals, when they are alone? And when they are grouped, they are very organized. That's your research question. So you go out and do that, confirm that, observe the phenomena in details, and then you come down and write your book. But for grounded theory, you don't have a question. You just go and say, today I'm going down to Chikubo. I hear there's something interesting in Chikubo there. People say Chikubo, Chikubo, Chikubo. Everybody talks about Chikubo. I want to go to Chikubo and observe Chikubo phenomena. So you have no question. You just go there, sit from morning, maybe at 7:30, you are there in Chikubo, seated in one corner of the street. Then at 5:30, you say, I'm tired, let me go home, I'll come back tomorrow. When you do that for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you can actually come out with a theory. Okay? I think I have I have exhausted that issue you have asked. Not so, sir.
It's well understood.
You have understood. Okay. Is there any other? I'm waiting. Okay. If there's no other, I would like to go and finish the other 3 remaining. I don't want to cut out somebody, and I also want to finish in time so that you prepare for Professor Bruno. So, can I proceed?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Now let's go to action research design. Action research design. Action research creates knowledge based on inquiries conducted within specific and often practical contexts. The purpose of action research is to learn through action that then leads to a personal or professional development. The key word here is action. And in research, there are basically two types of research. There's what we call basic research and what we call applied research. And action research belong to the family of applied. Research you do, and out of whose results you do something. You see, I'm going for this study, and for sure the results of this study will help me to improve. Most often we go to study a problem, and the problem normally is something negative, always, most of the time. So I'm going to study this problem, because if we don't understand this problem is going to bring this company down. So you go out, formulate a problem, then go and study it in details to understand it, its causes, also expose its effects. After that, you go back and say, what can we do to correct this? We have studied it, we have understood it. What can we do to correct this problem? That is now action. You went out to study that phenomenon with an action in mind. It was just not basic study, basic research. You just go and study, and its results are just there. I have just discovered that there are no people in the moon. I have discovered there are no people in Jupiter. I've discovered in Jupiter the temperature is so much. I have discovered in Jupiter there's no water. So what? So you have studied, yes, but what are you going to do with it? What is it going to benefit us? My company will not benefit from whether there's water in Jupiter or whether there's no water in Jupiter. So, but somebody is interested in studying those heavenly bodies, which may have very little link with my company. That is basic research. But you can also do a basic research within a business, which is not necessarily linked to any business. So when you have discovered what you have discovered, you are not going to say, I'm going to implement it, because it was just in space, not related to any company, not related to any phenomena that can be implemented. So now action research is, I am going out to study this particular phenomena, because once I discover what is the cause, what are the causes, then I can find the solution. Because to know the disease is half the cure. So that is action research. So the intervention is carried out, the so-called action is carried out, during which time observations are collected in various forms. So you collect observation, while also doing the intervention. Then the intervention strategies are carried out and the cyclic processes repeats. You continue until a sufficient understanding of all the implementation, the implementable solution is achieved. Yeah, try it out, come back, try it out, come back, try it out, come back, try it out until you find a solution to the problem. Actually, the first one I described was going all the way and then coming back to work out the solution. But there's also this intermediate one where you do something, within a short time, you try to implement the solution, then you study it again, a part of it, then you come and implement the solution, then like that, cyclically, bit by bit, until at the end of it, you have applied every component of that study. Okay? One of the courses that I coordinate here in UCU, Qualitative program, is Master of Arts in Leadership. From the onset of this program, we decided that its research must be applied or action research. So every student that comes to this program, we tell them, we don't want some theoretical topic. We are not interested in theoretical topic. And we don't want you to tell me you are not working with Century Bottling Company. You're not working with Crown Beverages. You're not working with Uganda Bati. So now, why are you trying to study the problem of Uganda Bati or the problem of Century Bottling Company? You're not working there. So we want you to find a problem statement within your area of operation, because then you can be able to provide a solution. You can't study Uganda Bati and then you go and then you say, hey, I have an idea here. I want you to implement it. They might not even believe what you're saying. But if you are an insider and a person somewhere in the ranks, once you study some phenomena which is relevant, you can be able to say, we can act on this. Our life depends on this because I've studied this phenomena and we need to do something about the results of this phenomena. That is action research. So an example, for example, in education, action research design involves collecting information regarding the current educational programs and their outcomes. Then you analyze the information, then you develop a plan to improve it. Then collect the changes after a new plan is implemented, and then develop conclusions regarding the improvements. So this is a back and forth one, that you want to improve your educational outcomes. So you do implement, find out, implement, find out problems, implement, find out problems, implement. By the end of a particular period, you have solved all the problems. Okay? So that is action research. Now we go to the fifth one, phenomenological design. It comes back again. Phenomenological design. It was mentioned earlier because we were talking about grounded theory. Now it comes out as its own design. Phenomenology is used to identify phenomena and focus on the subjective experiences and understanding the structure of those lived experiences. This was founded in the early 20th century by Edmund Husserl and Martin Heidegger, and it originated from philosophy. Phenomenology is used to describe in depth the common characteristics of the phenomena that has occurred. I wish you had opportunity to interact with me about phenomena. There are so many types of phenomena in this world. There are so many types of phenomena. Of course, we thank God that COVID now is on its way down. But if you went to Mulago Hospital about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, when the COVID ward was full to the brim, what you would observe there would never leave your head, your mind, because it was a phenomena. It was a phenomenon par excellence. I have seen people describe it. Of course, I could not go there. I am not a health worker. I didn't have a patient there. So there was been no way I would go there for curiosity to see the phenomena in Mulak Hospital COVID ward. But people who were there, they described the scene, very threatening scene, very threatening. People were gasping for oxygen, gasping for this, gasping for that, gasping for this, gasping for that. And so phenomena is a characteristic. It is a characteristic you can be able to describe. And so on and so. There are so many things we can describe in this world, which are phenomena. But as we said, phenomenological design, these guys, Martin Heidegger and Edmund Husserl, were philosophers, and they also had phenomena that they were observing. So they developed this as a design that can be used to study whatever is studiable. Now, the primary data collection method is through in-depth interviews. Like other qualitative methods, you don't start with a well-formed hypothesis. In phenomenology, you often conduct a lot of interviews, usually 5 up to 25 for common themes, to build a sufficient data set, to look for emerging themes, and to use other participants to validate your findings. You keep collecting data using interviews, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on, up to 25. Then you sit down and collect to look at the themes. Which themes are coming? Which themes are coming more common in what you have collected? What themes are coming? A theme like speed, speed, speed. I see people running, I see people running. So there is speed, speed. Then you can also say sweat, sweat. I see people sweating. Then money, money. I see a lot of money. Then I see wheelbarrows, whatever they call it. They used to call the mukokoteni, mukokoteni. Those were the days. But today, I think the motorcycle has replaced mukokoteni. So those are the things you could observe and say, my observation in this particular business district is that there is money, there is speed, there is a mukokoteni, and there is a sweat. Those are the common phenomena. And so you can be able to come back and say, this is what I observe. Speed, sweat, money, motorbikes. Those are the things I observe. So what sense can I make out of this? An example. There has been an explosion in the last 5 years in online courses. And I think it has also come to us. I didn't even bother to ask you to come on campus. I don't even know where you are. I should have asked you to come on campus today. But this is online. A few years ago, this thing was not there for us. We bought the equipment for online, but nobody was using it in the true sense of the word. Until COVID came knocking down, and then we woke up. All of us woke up and said, oh my God, how are we going to survive? So online has been born by COVID here in Uganda, in UCU, for example. COVID has woken us up to embrace online. Now, of course, in other countries, online has been there. In America, online is very, very strong, and many other countries in the West, maybe part also in the East. Online is very strong. But now, you want to know how students engage with these courses. Why? While you can examine the time spent and content accessed using log data and access student achievement vis-a-vis in-person courses, a phenomenological study would aim to better understand the student's experience and how that may impact comprehension of the material. So you haven't tested this. I wish you were here last year. I wish you were here last January. You'd have a testimony. How have we survived during this COVID period with online? What experiences have you as a student gone through during this COVID period and online? Their experiences. I remember the first time we started online, we didn't know that we had capacity problems. They say, oh, you're allowed now to go online. And then you say, oh, thank God we are allowed to go online. And the first day, we said, okay, we are going to do interviews for law entry exam online. And then we had 2,000 students who had applied. Said, okay, all of you log in tomorrow. You are going to do your interviews online. We didn't know that the capacity was 300. So the first 300 students entered, and all the others could not enter. And when they continued trying to enter, the system crashed. And that was the end of the system for that day. So there are phenomena that you cannot know until you are a member of that thing. So the students who tried that, and all of us observers, we knew that there is a capacity issue online, and that online is not as real as a face-to-face, and so on and so. There are issues that are good about it, but there are also issues that are not very good about it. So all those things you know only when you have experienced it. And that's a phenomenological issue. You know, those are phenomenological. So you cannot know about the feelings of students until you observe or until you interact with them, how they feel about online. My undergraduate studies, I think, have a better story to tell than even most postgraduate students. Because for them, it was even a double crisis. Some of them had never even tried anything online. So now all of a sudden, they're all supposed to be online. Somewhere in the rural areas where the network is an issue, somewhere in the towns, some didn't have a laptop. All those are phenomena that can cause you to have different experiences with online and so on and so on. So those are the issues phenomenology would want to study. And finally, we go to the ethnographic study design. Ethnographic study design. Ethnographic studies are qualitative procedures utilized to describe, analyze, and interpret cultures' characteristics. Cultures' characteristics. So an ethnography was developed in the 19th and the 20th centuries and used by anthropologists to explore primitive cultures different from their own. It originated from anthropology. So when you hear about ethnographic studies, your mind should run to anthropology, your mind should run to ethnography, to primitive cultures, because that is the origin. And I think this is also coming from the West. Because when the West came to Africa, for example, when the Western people came to Africa, they found a difference between their cultures and those of the Africans. So now they say, how do we understand African culture? Since African culture maybe has something to do with ethnicity, why don't we study it in that context? Why don't we study it? And why don't we call that study design ethnography? Because every ethnic group is different. Why don't we call this study design ethnography? After all, the culture is different from ours. After all, the cultures are different from one ethnic group to the other. Why don't we call this design ethnography to help us to document the difference between Bagisu and Bachwezi, to help us to understand the difference between Bakonzo and Basoga, and so on. So this ethnography design came out because anthropologists who had come from the West had come to study cultures in the South or in African continent, and they wanted to understand it. So that's where the concept of ethnography design comes from. So ethnography is used when a researcher wants to study a group of people to gain a larger understanding of their lives or of specific aspects of their lives. The primary data collection method is through observation over an extended period of time. It would also be appropriate to interview others who have studied the same cultures. So ethnography uses observation and observation over a long period of time. In fact, you cannot observe something for a very short time and you think you have exhausted it. You observe over a long time, and then you can be able to understand the culture and maybe even why they do some things. I think this brings us to the end of our discussion today. I'll give you one more opportunity if there are any issues, comments that you want to make. Otherwise, I am waiting for your concept papers. I'm waiting for your concept papers. If you were progressing by now, we would be progressing together. But please, I am waiting for your concept papers.
Doctor.
Yes.
Doctor.
Go ahead.
Concept paper. Yes. Concept papers, but in challenges with on Zoom. I think as let us now successful. Talk close to what the last kind of coursework, all what we had to do was aiming at scope. I think the scopes thing. I have to look for you individual, and I get to know more about what I'm supposed to do.
You want me to send you the questions? Do you want me to send you the questions?
Yes, because I've been off, I've not been attending, having issues until I finally succeeded now.